What's up, y'all? This is episode 245 of The Pass. I'm your host, BT, trying out something a little different. As y'all can tell, this is another attempt of trying to quote unquote go live. So I'm going to go ahead and start doing some plugs on some other social posts. So if you do happen to jump in and see this being posted, I definitely would appreciate it. I'm going to kill some fluff time for a minute. Um, and just tell y'all what I'm trying out because I have been talking about doing this, but I have yet didn't have the strength or the courage to do it. But I am actually finally going to be recording podcasts live. Now it's a mixture because you'll still get the edited version of the podcast, but um, you'll also get the option of listening to it on a regular podcast platform at your leisure. So this will be on Twitter and it will be on Facebook as well. If you want to check out the show, and if you happen to come in, leave a comment. It's definitely appreciated. It kind of lets me know what I'm doing right, what I'm doing wrong, what I could be working on, whatever the case may be. So if I see anybody jumping it in here, it definitely will make me feel like I'm doing something right. So we have a lot of information to divulge, digest, break down, and I'm gonna be adjusting because cameras here, computers here, mics here, so it's gonna be a little different. But if you are having difficulty hearing, or if you happen to come in, it looks like I do have someone viewing, so welcome whomever is here. And yeah, we're just gonna go ahead and chop it on up. So this is the final podcast we'll be doing for the month of May, which is suicide or not suicide, but mental health awareness month. So I do want to make sure that if I don't do it at any point, that I do it today. I want to promote or share if you are in a suicide or in a crisis. You can call 1-800-273-8255. I have had that link in the show notes for a couple of months, and I've kind of just put it as a promo link in general. But if you do need help, or if you need any assistance, reach out, get help. I know it's not as easy as it sounds, but any bit of help is resourceful. So utilize that opportunity or utilize that chance at that moment. That's kind of the best way I can kind of share it or tell it. When we last left off, we were doing a wrap up of the playoffs as far as thinking. I was assuming we would have our championship matchup between what I was assuming to be Golden State and Milwaukee, but it looks as though Milwaukee can't finish this series. So we're going to kind of do a backtrack and not just jump right into what has happened. What is happening. Let's go back to what happened. I've already talked about Golden State getting beat by Houston, Portland beating Denver. Steph Curry has proved that if Durant does come back, even if he has a good finals performance, Steph Curry should get MVP. That's my opinion. When I say MVP, I mean finals MVP. I know we're projecting and we're pushing down the road, but it's kind of been clear that Steph can kind of carry this team. He's been averaging over 30 points in these last 4 games. I think he scored 145 in 4 games, which is he's set the all-time record. Like, I think he exceeded Shaq's record as far as sweeping the team in that amount of games in 4 games. Portland has to learn how to close games. I've had this conversation with people off air, and I'm having this conversation here now to let others know. Portland has a good backcourt, and someone said this to me a few days ago, and I'm going to go ahead and affirm it now. If Portland is going to have a chance of really making a scene in the playoffs, they're going to have to get it from both McCollum and Lillard for the entire game. It can be, okay, McCollum's going to get his, cool. Lillard's going to get his, great. They need to get it together. And if it doesn't happen together, they're going to run into bigger problems as their careers continue as far as getting a championship. I know Lillard has said personally he's not pressed for winning a championship, which is fine. But however, that's kind of what you're playing for. Playing to get the money. The money is the money. I get that. But you have to be willing to put the effort in towards winning. And that's kind of been what Golden State's formula has become. I don't, between Toronto and Milwaukee on the Eastern Conference final side, I mean, pick your poison. Either team that they play, I don't think Golden State is really going to have a big fit or a big problem with either of those teams. But I do feel like Milwaukee would be the more challenging of the two teams. It's tough to say because on both teams you have one star player. In Toronto's case, it's Kawhi Leonard. In Milwaukee's case, it's Giannis. The problem becomes if the ball is taken out of either of those players' hands, is Eric Bledsoe going to step up? Is Matthew Brogdon going to step up? Is Marc Gasol going to step up for Toronto? Is Siakam going to step up? VanVleet just had an appearance where he decided he wanted to play basketball. Like certain guys look good at one point, but they don't show up consistently, and that can be like a make or break of their of either team's run. With Golden State, if Draymond Green has an off game, you got Steph and Klay. If Klay has an off game, you got Steph and Draymond. If Durant comes back during any point of the series, you have three scorers who can at least give you 15 to 20 points minimum. And that's very key to look at with this lineup, because between those four players alone, you can get a solid you can get a solid 60 points from them alone as far as getting about 15 points a night. Unless some off or odd night happens, you're going to get those points out of those players. So that's what we've seen. That's what we're expecting. And that's kind of where we are with the playoffs right now. So when I record next week, we're going to try and do another live again, because I think, like I said, a live, I'm still trying out. If you leave comments, I will be checking them. So if you are watching or are listening, definitely appreciate it. But that being said, when we get back to doing our show next week, we should have our finals teams set. Whether that's going to factor in if we are a game one and game two, not really sure yet. So we'll see when we get there. The all NBA teams have been announced. I don't believe, now I need to double check because I don't recall seeing the all rookie team, but they do have the actual all NBA team and all defensive team. And I'll look to see, because I want to make sure that has been set. If it is, then I'll go ahead and share that as well, because I believe, yeah, we do have that. So I'm behind on life. So we'll go ahead and get the rookie team. Well, we'll kind of do it in order, because traditionally you do all NBA first. So we'll go ahead and talk about it. Thank you for the comment, Miss Grace. I appreciate that. Let's see. So right now, first things first, we'll get into all NBA team. The all NBA team is led by Giannis Antetokounmpo and James Harden. Those are your first two guys that are on the first within the first team. So your first team is Giannis, Steph, Paul George, James Harden, and Nikola Jokic. No problems here so far. I'm all on board. I definitely don't see that as an issue. Your second team is where it gets more breakdownish, more interesting. You have Kevin Durant, Joel Embiid, Kyrie Irving, Kawhi Leonard, and Damian Lillard. Still no problems for me with that team either. Your third team is where the discussions really begin. You have Rudy Gobert, Blake Griffin, LeBron James, Kemba Walker, Russell Westbrook. Two snubs that were a question or were concerned were Klay Thompson, and I personally looked at it as Karl Anthony Towns. It's hard, let alone challenging, to get a perfect call on your actual All NBA team. And I say that, I make that statement solely because there are different accolades that merits whether a team or player whether a player is deserving of getting into that team or not. Now, I'm gonna say something, and I might get flack for it, but I'll say it because I can. You're kind of in a no-win situation of certain players making this list. The first one, obviously, to go ahead and get it out of the way, LeBron making a list isn't a problem. And I say it's not a problem because he wasn't first team. He didn't have a bad season, but he didn't have a great season either. So it worked to his advantage, and it wasn't as big of an issue as it seemed. So with that being the case, it turned out where the better team played a better game. And I'm saying a better team. This is an individual based award. So I'm gonna go ahead and point out the obvious. Let's get the obvious out of the way. First team, Steph, hands down, deserves it. No issues for me at all. Let me make sure, because I think he did make it. Okay, Westbrook did make the list. Paul George, first, like your three MVPs, potential MVP candidates should be in the first team. Wouldn't make sense for them not to be. That didn't leave Steph, which Steph technically could have been an MVP candidate. I think it's one of those things where we're trying to find a way to equal out and even out the league as a whole. So Steph is in that conversation. Jokic has had a phenomenal season this year. Like, no one expected him to play the way he has played. Second team, obviously Durant. What is there bad to say? One of the best players on the planet, if not the best. Joel has shown time and time again he's trusted the process and been playing his type of basketball. Kyrie has been consistent despite his talks of wanting to leave Boston. He's played his best effort on the court, which is all people want at the end of the day. Kawhi, I think Kawhi surprised people more than he did not shock them, if that makes sense. Kawhi played Kawhi basketball. I'll just put it like that. And there was no surprise to what we saw from Kawhi as far as a basketball player. Lillard has been consistent all year. He could have been in the MVP talk, but he didn't really have that big of a season, regular season wise. I mean, they were having their battles early on, but they did, they were able to, with giving the series that they played against Denver showed a lot. The series against OKC showed even more, but obviously this is all based on regular season. So that's kind of where we are with that. Third team, let's see, Rudy Gobert. I personally think is going to be defensive player of the year. We're going to get to all defense in a moment. Blake Griffin, I mean, what is there bad to say about him with Detroit? LeBron was going to make the list in some manner because, I mean, LeBron didn't have the worst season at all, but he had a decent season. So you can't knock him for what happened or how things went. Kemba, by being with Charlotte being the host team for the All-Star game, and also him just having a breakout year, as well as with him winning this award, it helps him with possibly getting a Supermax contract, which is important for his offseason looks into free agency. It's a matter of if a team can afford him. It's going to be all about the max space, and that's all another breakdown. Westbrook, we saw Westbrook only made sense definitely because of the triple-double run that he continued, and that was given off from the beginning. Turning to the rookie groupings, it was clear that it was going to be a two-man race with two guys already being given to be on the first team, and that was Luka Doncic and Trae Young. Trae Young surprised me. I'm going to be honest, because I thought when he got into the league, I thought he was going to shoot every chance he had, and luckily he learned how to play into the game of basketball, which meant he was able to be a floor general. He was able to utilize his teammates. He got a lot of inspiration and a lot of help from Vince Carter, which is, what help can't you get from a player who's been in the league for over 16 years? If not longer. I'm saying 16, but I mean, when he came in at 21, 22, and I mean, he's been in the league and played for multiple teams, had a couple chances of making championship runs, but he's done his job. So our all rookie first team, DeAndre Ayton, number 1 pick. What is there? I mean, obviously Phoenix wasn't a good team. Let's just call a spade a spade. But it still worked out to their advantage where he still played he played his role with Phoenix. Also, just a reminder, if you are here in the chat or if you are looking to, if you do see happen to come in, say hi. It would definitely be appreciated. Marvin Bagley Sacramento, they didn't have the best year, but Marvin Bagley was pretty healthy most of the year, which is very, very helpful. Obviously, Luka Doncic, which I personally feel is going to be rookie of the year, still an early call. Jaren Jackson. No one expected Jaren Jackson to develop the way he did in picking up basketball his rookie year, but he did it. So no need complaining. And Trae Young. So that rounds out that rounds out the first team. Second team, you have Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, Colin Sexton, Landry Shamet with the Clippers, Mitchell Robinson with New York, and Kevin Huerter with Atlanta. Now, I don't believe, if I'm looking at this right, I don't think there was a third team. Yeah, I don't see a third team on here. And I guess okay, so that's interesting. So they have Harry Giles listed as part of the rookie teams, but I think because he didn't play any his initial rookie year, so he kind of got a second rookie year like Ben Simmons did. And I mean, this year he was on the court, but we really didn't see much of him. I'm going to talk about this on my show because I feel like it's good to bring up, especially with talking sports. There are players in the NBA who have a chance to get it right, and there are players in the NBA who just aren't ready. Harry Giles, I don't think, was really ever ready for basketball. I mean, he was NBA potential, but he wasn't NBA ready. And I know that's technically aren't those the same thing? And I'm like, technically they're not. And the reason why is because he kind of already had his sights set on the pros when he was in high school. So regardless of what school he went to, he really didn't do a lot at Duke. And I think I've talked about him on the show before. So I'm not going to give him a major amount of attention. But I will say, I really hope he has a decent year or a decent NBA career. Looking at the list, I like I said, it's a 2-man race between, you could kind of almost say a 3-man race, but they don't have Jaren Jackson listed because it's between Bagley, Trae Young, and Doncic. Doncic should get it. Doncic had to deal with a lot with his team, with Dennis Smith being released. They released Dennis Smith to give him the green light. And Kirilenko is going to be a very valuable resource for the team next year. Obviously, you have Dirk, I feel like Dirk is going to become a Drake for Dallas as far as being like an ambassador of some sort. I feel like they're going to find a way to implement a role to keep him with the organization. I feel it. Now, I might be wrong, but that's my personal take on it. He might just carry back to Germany and build his legacy in that regard. There's no telling. Moving to our defensive or all defensive team, this is where you kind of can really get into your conversation piece, because there are a couple guys who are on the list. First of all, why is James Harden on the all defensive team as even receiving a vote? But that's another story. Our top, we'll go over the main, our main five. The all defensive first team is Giannis, Eric Bledsoe, which surprised me, not gonna lie. Paul George, Rudy Gobert, and Marcus Smart. Giannis proved with this award that he should get MVP. He made all defensive team and all NBA first team. Like Harden is not, I mean, he made off NBA team, first team, but you're not going to see the defensive side. And it's interesting because even with Giannis being as good of a player as he is, you rarely, if at all, hear the term two-way player for Giannis Antetokounmpo. Paul George has always been the two-way player voice. Like anytime you think of two-way players, he's the first one that comes to mind. Marcus Smart has been that, as I always say, the gritty defender. So we're not surprised by him being on the list either. Gobert should get Defensive Player of the Year. I think I might have said that before. I probably said it on this show just now. I'll go back and listen, but he should get All Defensive Player or NBA. Excuse me, NBA Defensive Player of the Year. Rounding out the second team, you have Drew Holiday. Shocker there. Klay Thompson. I wanted to give Klay the award on this end to make up for him not making All NBA team. Keep that in mind. Joel Embiid, obviously he's been very defense oriented. Draymond Green and Kawhi Leonard. Kawhi Leonard is another player that you always hear in that two-way player conversation. Jimmy Butler is in the top options for receiving votes as a honorable mention. I mean, I guess you could say the honorable mention. There are a list of other players as well. Like I said, James Harden made that list, which is still shocking. Even Steph Curry. Trying to see why Ben Simmons made the list, but hey, to each his own. And they show all the forwards and the centers as well. I wasn't sure if I was going to talk about this on the show, but I'm going to talk about it because it happened. We're in a Bleacher Report social media-esque era with sports or with news. Or it's almost like Bleacher Report, and I'm not saying Bleacher Report is a shade room. I'm not saying it's any of those tabloid sites, but they get information pretty rapid, and something that would normally stay under the radar can somehow find its way to go public. The Magic Johnson LA Lakers debacle is out of hand. And I say that with very strong feeling because I think they're trying to justify. Let's go back. Let me go ahead and paint the timeline because I know I'm normally just talking about things, but not really giving you the full timeline of like, hey, here's what happened. He took the role a few years ago. He came in, he had a strong vision. He had been there for, I think he was in the role for 3 years, if I'm not mistaken, because he was pushing to get, he had goals or he had plans of trying to get Paul George there. Obviously, he was able to get the LeBron transaction completed, among other things. This season might have been the toughest season for him because there were a lot of things that needed to be changed for the culture of the Lakers organization. And he was in that position of trying to do that, but it was tough for him to try to do that. So on Monday of this week, which would have been the 20th, he was on First Take and he gave a bit of a response. And I'll read, this is where I'm still going to adjust to like live recording because I got to read and I don't want to Like unless I have it right here and read, it's still gonna be red. So during a lengthy appearance on ESPN's First Take on Monday morning, Magic Johnson explained why he stepped down from his position with the LA Lakers last month and divulged some details regarding what went on behind closed doors that made him feel like he needed to part ways with an organization that he holds dear to his heart. Johnson had a whole lot to say, but his comments made one thing crystal clear. He felt betrayed by Lakers GM Rob Pelinka, who Johnson didn't know prior to his role with the Lakers. This tells you a lot just off of this portion alone. Pelinka and Magic were not seeing eye to eye in any manner. I didn't know Rob Pelinka. First year in, it was tremendous. And then I start hearing, Magic, you're not working hard enough. Magic's not in the office. People around the Lakers office were telling me Rob was saying things. Rob Pelinka and I didn't like those things being said behind my back, that I wasn't in the office enough. So I started getting calls from my friends outside of basketball saying those things now were said to them outside of basketball now, just not in the Lakers office anymore. Now it's in the media and so on. If you're going to talk betrayal, it's only with Rob. Pelinka responded to Johnson's comments at the introductory press release for new Lakers coach Frank Vogel and called the remarks of his former colleagues saddening and disheartening. 2 years of getting to work side by side with Irving are some of the greatest memories I have in sports and work. He's an unbelievable person to work with. He fills the room with joy and vision. And truly, it's saddening and disheartening to think he believes things are a misperception. Despite the way things ended between the two of them, Pelinka said that he remains in contact with Johnson. I'm not going to read this A to Z, but you kind of get the main gist of it. And they talk about like the actual interview on First Take told a lot in interpreting Magic Johnson's point of view with what happened. And I think, and this is where podcasting and video recording is going to have me really looking up and analyzing how I'm going to break this down. Magic wants what's best for the Lakers organization. I feel as though Rob Pelinka has that same agenda, but I also feel as though Rob Pelinka was in a tough spot because he's a former owner as well as he worked with Kobe. So the affiliation with the team is it's going to be biased by default, but it's also going to be a little lopsided. And this is what I mean in saying that. Pelinka in the role of GM, it's a different role. And I didn't read it in this article, but I'm gonna take a blind stab because I want to skim through it and make sure, because I feel like, yeah, okay. Another piece to this puzzle that has to be looked at is Jeanie Buss. Jeanie Buss was put in a very transparent position of handling a role that she wasn't ready for. Let's just call a spade a spade. I honestly don't know what to expect with the Lakers organization in the future. What worries me the most with them right now is that even though it's not being said clearly, I don't know if LeBron's going to stay there for he's going to retire as a Laker. I don't see it. Or let me rephrase that. I don't think he's going to finish his basketball career as a Laker, because there's a difference. Players will go to a team to play one day or sign a one-day contract to retire as whatever team. And I'm going to talk about this on my show because someone asked about this, so they said they didn't understand why players do this. And it kind of makes sense as to why. When players are looking at their legacy or their career, they look at what team did I have the most success with, or what team was I well known for playing with? Prime example. Even if Golden State, if Durant decides to walk and go to New York, I feel as though he would retire as a Warrior. I don't know why. Because what's strange to me is I would assume him to retire as a Thunder, which is still strange, but whatever. Certain players retiring under certain umbrellas or certain windows makes sense for their reputation, their character, their brand, whatever. And with this case, is no exception of LeBron trying to get the Lakers that championship and saying, I'm retiring from basketball and I played for the Lakers, but he would probably do a contract with Cleveland and retire. I don't know if that made sense in explaining what the reference of the player retirement, how that all works, but I'm just saying this to share it as in the industry of sports. I'm talking about that, but I'm bringing it back to Magic in the discussion or in the discussion of sports. It's a business. It's always has and always will be a business that will never change, that will never be modified. You can't redefine that. You can't do anything with it but accept it. So I say all of that to say it as we should not be surprised by what we see with this all coming to full circle. Because we're in the social media era and because people want answers, it got a little bit more attention than others expected, which happens. I mean, that's the way it goes sometimes. I feel like, and I found an article, but I didn't really read it too much. The talk or the idea is that Magic should kind of distance himself from La La Land for a little while. Not going to happen. If it does happen. I mean, it would be a good dream of seeing it happen, but I don't see it happening, at least personally. It's going to be a matter of how the Lakers would be able to pull that one off. We're going to go from professional hardwood to college hardwood, and I'm going to bring a little bit of a small story in to bring this story to surface. Because as many of you, if you have not listened to my podcast before, or if you don't know this with me already, how I record is I give you plenty of information and I go ahead, I'll bring up information and then I'll kind of put it all together, like bring you a story. Hey, this happened. Here's how this happened. And here's where we are. Over 20 years ago, Michigan basketball created what many have known to be the Fab Five. Ray Jackson, Jimmy King, Chris Webber, Jalen Rose, and the topic of this section, Juwan Howard. At the time when that was all done, no one expected the Fab Five to be as big of a deal as it was. You had Chris Webber, who was the number one recruit at that time. If there was a such thing of ball is life at that time, I think Chris Webber's highlights would have been insane, especially for his height and his ability to play basketball. In all fairness, I personally think he could have came straight out of high school, but he also needed to develop. And I think Michigan was able to help him develop mentally because it benefited him for the NBA. It's another story. He and Jalen Rose were like brothers. Jimmy King and Ray Jackson as well. They, like this whole group, all five of them, it was a brotherhood. ESPN did a 30 for 30, which I think I've watched a lot of 30 for 30 shows. And I still believe out of all of them, the best one, I want to get stuff out of the background. Out of all of them, I think the Fab Five might have been one of my favorite. In the center of the image of one of the images that they show, you see Juwan Howard sitting on the rim with the other guys around him. Fast forwarding to now, as we all know, we don't really hear from Ray Jackson or Jimmy King that often. Chris Webber is still doing analyst work with TNT. Jalen Rose has been on ESPN for years. I want to say he has his own podcast, him and Jacoby. And Juwan Howard has been kind of in the coaching carousel as far as like an assistant coach or just doing small things with different teams. Well, we're here now to announce that he has been hired as the head coach for Michigan University. They were able to sign him at a 5-year deal for $2 million a year. Now, I wanted to read this now because I'm glad this brings up something that I wanted to get into. Now, granted, before I go into this, this is his first time as an official head coach. So I'm not expecting him to get a whole lot of money. But I was curious to see how they were going to compensate him based on his role as a coach, especially with Michigan, especially with knowing how much money is involved in sports, boosters and all that jazz. Like all of that comes into play and is thought about in reference to this story. He's very excited about the opportunity. As a Michigan man, he knows the place the program has in college basketball and will embrace the chance to build onto the history and lead them to championships, both at the Big Ten and national level. He was previously an assistant coach with the Miami Heat. He was the front runner of the job after Ed Cooley withdrew from wanting to coach, and he got a multi-year deal to stay with Providence. We have found someone with integrity, great character, and a coach who has unbelievable knowledge of the game of basketball. Juwan has proven himself to be a tremendous leader, a wonderful communicator, and a developer of talent. We couldn't have asked for a better role model for the young men in our program. We're excited to welcome back a member of the family to Ann Arbor. I'm bringing this story up, and I'm going to talk about this as simple as I can because I have a whole lot of stuff that I want to get into, and I don't want to leave anything behind. You probably saw it. So this is my sanity. If you ever see like I'm not showing hands, this is why, because I'm fidgety. But anyway, Jalen Rose did say on Get Up that this transaction or this occurrence of Howard joining Michigan's coaching staff is the opportunity and the pipeline of getting the Fab Five back together. Because in the amount of years that all that has occurred, it's time for Webber and Rose to let it go. Whatever it was, squash it, drop it, move forward. I feel as though it's good for the team, it's good for the legacy, it's good for a way of generating good times in a good area. What I also realized, and someone posted this in the sports group that I'm in, hopefully someone from the sports group sees this and may give some feedback or comment. It points out something that no one really is noticing. That a lot of the former NBA players that most of us have grown to love, that have had pretty decent NBA careers, are in the coaching industry. Now, I'm gonna do the immediate NBA Mount Rushmore of coaches right now that just got roles. You have Patrick Ewing, who is, I believe, in his second year. Penny Hardaway, who's going to be starting his second year. Jerry Stackhouse, this will be year number 1 coming up for him. And Juwan Howard, who is year number 1 for him. Between all 4 players, you're looking at 1 championship, which is from Howard. Cool, great, bells and whistles, however you want to pin it. This generates something that no one really wants to accept, but it's time to acknowledge it. Not teams, kids coming out of high school are going to do whatever they can to get through the pipeline to get to the NBA. I say this because a lot of guys are going to go to these schools starting off and looking at that opportunity of, where am I going to go? What's my next option? In Memphis, the story that makes this evident and clear is Memphis. Memphis, out of nowhere, had the #1 recruiting class. And they have about 6 or 7 guys coming in to this upcoming class. It's going to be tough because all of them trying to get minutes is going to be one factor. The other factor is, are they at Memphis to utilize a facility to prepare to go pro, or are they actually going to be working towards bettering their game? And when I say bettering your game, some kids don't realize coming out your freshman year is not going to help you in some cases. I use him as an example, but I'm going to say it because it's the truth. De'Aaron Fox needed Coach Cal more than Coach Cal needed De'Aaron Fox. And I say that in a delayed manner because Fox was a good point guard, but Calipari gave him the tools to become a better point guard. Calipari didn't need De'Aaron Fox on his team because they already had Joshua Quaid, I think, or Quaid Green. Well, I can't remember his name, but it was another guard that was there who he ended up transferring this offseason. I forgot what school he went to. And that was kind of like this, trying to run different guards and things of that nature. I bring these guys up because a lot of teams in the next few years, or a lot of high school prospects over the next few years, are going to look at these schools and see, oh, Stackhouse used to coach in the NBA. Stackhouse has connections with players in the NBA. They have connections with teams in the NBA. This could be my way of getting into the league. Could work in their favor, could also burn them in the end. We don't know yet. It's still early. But I like the transition of more Black coaches in college basketball. I also like that they're making it clear we're here to send a message and let other schools know about business. I'm a little concerned for Vanderbilt's case with Stackhouse, only because Vanderbilt's not a good team. And it's not even about them being not a good team, but they're in the SEC with Kentucky. So I'm thinking about that as well. I'm bringing all those things in just as randomness, but it's looked at when you think of if these kids are going to go to this school to try to get to the next level, or if they're just there because they really are trying to get an education. Like when Darius Garland went there, it was already clear he was going to the NBA, whether he was hurt or not. And even with him showing in the NBA Combine, he didn't play very long, but he played long enough to show what he could do. So that's where we are with that. Like I said, I wish Juwan Howard success at Michigan, and hopefully this upcoming season, the biggest thing or the biggest achievement, winning the Big Ten is whatever. If they can make the actual tournament in his first year, that's going to be telling. And that's kind of all I got. Professional football is kind of at a standstill. Hasn't really been much going on. Off season is kind of boring. Things are hitting here and there, but nothing like major. So I'm really not going to give you much in that regard. But I do have some soccer. So there is talk that Vincent Kompany, who just recently won the Premier League, I'll get over it. He will be leaving Man City and going to play for the Belgian club Anderlecht. He is 33. He is the longest serving player with the team, who had been with them since 2008. contract is likely going to be running out, and they're going to go ahead and let him go to that team, which is okay because I mean, company is not younger, and it works out in the long haul for him to, go somewhere and just kind of play at his pace and play on his terms because Premier League is a high level or high paced level of football or football. They talked, they mentioned that he had multiple injury issues. He did start 5 of the last 6 matches to win the title, to help them with winning the title. And he did score a winner against Leicester to kind of cement them winning the actual Premier League. And they just give a little bit more information in regards to that. But I'm glad for Vincent Kompany has been playing pretty solid soccer with the team. And I've kept up with it as best as I can. Obviously, I try not to watch. I watch games for Man City, but I get upset because it's like it's not Liverpool. Not Liverpool. It's not Chelsea, so I just kind of support it my own way, and that's just kind of where I'm at with it. So that's our sports. More time I spent on sports than I have in a long time, but that's neither here nor there. We do have stuff. The first story, I'm a little upset because it looks like it doesn't want to load, but I'm gonna kind of freestyle it a little bit, and we'll talk about it. So Pandora, many users who are more inclined to the a free streaming service use Pandora. And I'm gonna be 100% honest. I have no knock against that at all. Pandora has been in the game for at least, I'm almost wanting to say 10 years, if not longer. I might be exaggerating with that time period, but I feel like Pandora's been out there for like quite some time. And it was time for them to do something a little different, and they did. Most people who use Pandora typically use it on their phone, or they just open up a web browser and play Pandora. Well, Pandora found it could have the image. I'll try something out real quick. This is why I like, whoa. If y'all hear that, my bad. I'm gonna show y'all something. So that little icon right here, that's Pandora's new page. I don't know what's going on. Hang on one second, y'all. Okay. So we're gonna do like this because hopefully y'all can't hear that. It might just be that headphone. Okay, there it is. All right. Sorry about that. I'm over here trying to still learn this technical thing. But Pandora has a native desktop app. It is available for Mac only right now. It will be coming to Windows soon. Like I said, I just showed it on the Mac. I've used it. It's pretty self-explanatory, pretty cut and dry. You can play music. It's not available to play podcasts as of yet. And all right, we're about to just freestyle. It includes the controls for Pandora modes, as well as allows you to play, songs for you, such as crowd phase and newly released. You can use it for any tier. You don't have to. It's not for only paid membership. They will be doing the Windows version of it soon. They haven't given a date for that release, however. Like I said, I've used it, and in a little bit of time that I've messed around with it, it's not as bad as it seems. It just takes some time to get used to. And I'm sorry, I'm over here like technically fixing stuff because I don't know what just happened. So if I'm making noise or it's like me cringing or wringling stuff, it's just my tech mode activating. Yeah, still crackling. Okay. Oh, okay. So it's in one ear. And it crept over to the other ear. All right, fine. Okay. So that's mainly it for Pandora. I mean, that's the Pandora app as a whole. Like I said, I've tried it. It looks and feels pretty good. I don't use Pandora very often. Obviously, if you saw my desktop just now, I typically am on Spotify, and that's just kind of where we're at. I'm surprised I'm doing a show with no water. By the way, this is new, so it's a little different. Like people are coming, like walking through, and I'm just like, I hope no one thinks I'm like excessively loud, but I'm probably not. But anyway, um, I found this story. I'm gonna kind of talk about it, and we'll have a discussion about it because esports has become its own ecosystem, to say it without saying it. And personally, if you know esports or know the scene, you kind of saw this coming. The mainstream narrative of esports has been lovingly crafted by those who benefit from its success. There's big money in esports, they say. You've heard the stories. Teenage gamers flown from overseas to sunny mansions with live-in chefs. The erection of $50 million arenas for Ender's Game-esque sci-fi battles. League of Legends pros pulling down seven-figure salaries. Yet there's a reason why these narratives are provocative enough to attract lip-licking headlines in business news and have accrued colossal amounts of venture capital. More and more, esports is looking like a bubble ready to pop. I feel like esports is almost running a Ponzi scheme at this point. This is Frank Fields, who's Corsair sponsorship manager. The crowd laughed uncomfortably. The smile dropped from Fields' face as he continued. Everyone I talk to in this industry kind of acknowledges the fact that there is value in esports, but it is not nearly the value that is getting hyped these days. Later, Fields would clarify that this value and future value as of now is optimistic at best and fraudulent at worst. Fields is not the only longtime esports veteran who is worried the industry is a bubble, or more accurately, an industry comprised of several bubbles. 17 other experts on North American esports industry shared similar concerns with Kotaku, some describing it merely as inflated and others as completely unsustainable. Several spoke on the controversial topic because they love esports and want to see it succeed organically in a sustainable way. There is, of course, a genuine love shared by thousands of people for playing games competitively. Right now, many who speak to us for this story said the stuff that makes the esports industry seem like a tantalizing investment rests on unsubs- unsubstantiated claims or blunt force lies. Okay, I think I figured it out. As investors pour hundreds of millions of dollars into the ballooning esports industry, many feel their way forward with statistics that indicate that pay dirt is just around the corner. League of Legends gets more viewers than Super Bowl, reads one 2019 headline from CNBC, glossing over the fact that they're comparing Apple viewership metrics to Coconut viewership metrics. A 2017 Morgan Stanley report leaked to Kotaku claimed in the first year the Overwatch League could conceivably generate $720 million in revenue, about the same as World Wrestling Entertainment. So this is a numbers article. I'm not going to read this A to Z. because it's a lot to talk about, and I want to get to every topic that I have. Um, Esports is a moneymaker. We know that, but I think what people are trying to understand is where and how does this money generate outside of the sponsorship? Like what business sacrifice is done to achieve some of the funds that are poured out into these events? I thought about this and I looked at that article because the first thing I thought of was this weekend is Combo Breaker, which is in Illinois. And for everyone who is attending the event, they've generated like a 48-page special that shows all of the participants and like bios and information of each person that's there. Something of that magnitude would cost, probably $30 or $40 because it's like almost the little inserts they give you when you go to sporting events. Like, hey, here's so you know who's gonna be playing in this basketball or this football game today. And most of the time they give that to you at a game. And here it is, you're getting this at an esports event, but it's more information. Esports has formed into its own ecosystem, which a lot of people like and a lot of people hate. And in all fairness, I understand the true meaning of the love-hate relationship between the two, but now it's almost a no-win situation. So we're going to be, we say this all the time, but we're really going to keep our eyes close on what esports is doing. Because I think there's something that's coming that they're really not wanting to make clear or well known. I don't know. It's something in the air with esports that has even caught my attention on occasion. Like, I'm not even gonna lie, I've thought about it from time to time where I really would like to give esports a nod, but I'm not sure if it's really what I'm meant to do. All right, we're going to continue because it looks like I got some stuff I got to do on my end. I don't know yet. I'll find out in a second. The next Call of Duty that's going to be released has been called Modern Warfare. It is being mimicked based on Call of Duty 4 Modern Warfare. The fourth Modern Warfare is going to be called Modern Warfare. It leaked on YouTube earlier on yesterday morning. Activision has been showing the game to press influencers for a week or two, so a leak like this was expected. Kotaku has not seen the game or agreed to any embargo, but they have heard from many sources connected to the Call of Duty world that it is going to be a soft reboot of the first one, developed by Infinity Ward, which is expected to release this fall. It'll be heavy on troubling, realistic, emotional moments, very much inspired by the controversial No Russian campaign in Modern Warfare 2 that allowed the player to gun down civilians. Kotaku also broke the news on Saturday that Activision's mega popularity shooter series has been flux, with Black Ops Studio Treyarch taking over lead development of COD 2020 from Sledgehammer and Raven. Video games are absurd. We can expect to see more from Call of Duty Modern Warfare soon, likely next week, which means everybody's going to be breaking down a video that they saw or giving reaction videos to what just occurred. Sonic the Hedgehog, the movie, is looking to be delayed to 2020. They're doing this to fix the look of Sonic because I think a lot of people don't like the appearance of the design of Sonic in this in this movie. They're pushing it back to, ironically, Valentine's Day. From the time that they showed the initial design, no one was pleased. So there was a lot of feedback and a lot of input given regarding that. Um, that's kind of really all I mean. That's kind of what the article says. It's changing. Let's see. Fans weren't happy with Sonic's design, and the movie trailer released, which prompted Fowler to respond early. The message is loud and clear. You aren't happy with the design. You want changes. It's going to happen. Everyone at Paramount and Sega are fully committed to making the character the best he can be. Changing the design means more work from VFX artists and post production personnel. Without a new release date, concerns about crunch were inevitable. Hence Fowler's hashtag. No VFX artists were harmed in the making of this movie. That is what the hashtag said. According to Fowler, the redesign work will push the movie back 3 months to February 14th, just in time for the romantic holiday Sonic was made for. And I think it's tough because it's not just the actual initial design that we see; it's the angles and the views of Sonic that just it doesn't look right. So we'll look forward to seeing what's next for Sonic. I'm not gonna talk about this story, and I'm trying to think. Do I want to talk about Apple? I don't have this listed, but I'm going to talk about it because I forgot to add it as one of my topics. PlayStation and Xbox are playing nice again. They are working on generating a. They're working to generate an actual cloud-based service so that you will be able to access games in a more convenient sense from how it was set up. Let me, because I don't want to just read this off the just out of nowhere. Give me 1 sec. They're kind of like the consoles. No one wants to acknowledge this. I feel like the console wars are just about over. And I'm not, like I said, this topic is kind of like a paraphrase topic in a sense, but I'm going to just speak how I feel about the whole thing. A lot of times console battles happen and they shouldn't happen. And it sucks that they happen, but as with anything, you kind of just make it work. And in this case, it kind of was clear where like PlayStation was kind of set on, we're going to be difficult. We're going to do it our way. All right, cool. That's what you want to do. That's your choice. Can't knock you for it. Xbox was, hey, we're open arms. We need help. Y'all need help. Let's make this work. Eventually, PlayStation had caved in. The transition initially occurred with the infamous cross-play between various games such as Fortnite, Rocket League. Fortnite and Rocket League were the first two that were kind of like, we're okay with our game being played on more than one system. And that's basically where it is right now. Where does this put the console for its future? Or where does this put console gaming in the future? We're practically to a point, and I don't want to sound like this, but I'm going to say it because it's kind of relevant. We're soon going to be away from physical copies of games. I feel like PlayStation is practically there. Xbox has made it clear with the streaming services, trying to, providing you the monthly fees. They're wanting you to go hey, buy a console, get our service. You have online gaming. As long as you have internet in your home, you use your device accordingly. And that's kind of what this is all turned into and reaching the point that it has. I don't know what the next steps are for it, but I do like that a change is here. I personally don't buy games as often as I used to. The last game I haven't even, like, for 2019, I actually haven't bought a video game yet. That's how gaming has transitioned for me personally. Sometimes I'm okay with that. Other times I'm like, I wish I was playing more games, but I also know, like, you can't just turn on the system and play games if you got a adult. So I just don't. I mean, I get on when I can, and that's just kind of how it's been. Um, and that's mainly the views from that. Before we get into, I don't even know if I want to call this ass of the week. It's gonna be weird. This will be weird story of the week. So it's not gonna be ass of the week. It's not gonna be pass of the week. It's gonna be weird story of the week because there really wasn't anything that was like a weird standout of a story or circumstance. There was new music, and I haven't had a chance to listen to a lot of albums. I did listen to Cross Me by Ed Sheeran, pretty good song. The London, like it. Clyro has a song called Bags. Didn't expect that I would enjoy it, but I actually did like that new single. Um, Before anyone asks, no, I have not listened to Aladdin soundtrack. It's too long for me. Denzel Curry I haven't gotten to yet. Purple Emoji I did listen to, pretty good single. This was somewhat of a single week for music. A lot of artists did a lot of singles. This talked about, I was listening to this briefing on Joe Budden's podcast. This was kind of that Khaled follow-up week where everybody's trying to figure out what we're going to bring out to lead to a possible project, but no one, no actual albums really hit. Like I said, I'm going to listen to YG at some point, and I'm working better on listening to more content, which has been an adjustment, but that's all another story. Our ass of the week is kind of a twofer. We have Mallory Edens, who is the let's see, because this whole story is weird. Like this is the owners. Mallory Edens is the daughter of Wes Edens, and we're gonna. This is that quick painting time of back in time story. Toronto has been playing Milwaukee. Games 1 and 2 went Milwaukee's way. Games 3 and 4 went Toronto's way in Toronto. Game 4 was the most talked about game possibly because during that game, Drake was exceeding his ambassador perks, I guess you could say, by more so being interactive with the game, a little more interactive with the game than normal. And the Milwaukee Bucks weren't a big fan of that. So when you fast forward to game 5, the battling continued in a unique way. And here's what I mean when I say that. Mallory Edens decided to wear a Pusha T t-shirt to the game, which is kind of like the Pusha Drake beef reignited. And that was kind of her way of sticking it back to Drake. Well, game 5, Milwaukee was leading most of the game, but somehow Toronto was able to make a comeback and they ended up winning the game. So Drake decided to change his profile picture to Mallory Edens for the sake of being petty. Yeah, kind of paraphrase everything that was just read. Edens, who's the daughter of Bucks owner Wes Edens, demonstrated a strong trolling game when she arrived at her courtside seat wearing a t-shirt bearing the likeness of Pusha T, a rapper famously engaged in a feud with Drake. In response, Drake then changed his Instagram profile to a picture of Mallory Edens. It's weird. He added to his Instagram story, great. Give me a sec. He added to his Instagram story a picture of Edens in the shirt courtside at Game 5 with the message, "All is fair in war and war. All is fair in war and trust me, I'll still get you tickets to OVO. Fest. OVO Fest was started by Drake 9 years ago, but has been on hiatus since 2017. So many fans took this as a sign that Toronto-based music gathering would be back in 2019. Drake, who stayed in Toronto for Game 5, but will surely be back on the sidelines for Game 6 on Saturday, became the center of conversation after his demonstrative Game 4 antics on Tuesday. And it's kind of the main story. So it's not, like I said, it's not really Ass of the Week. It's just odd story of the week. Just Drake kind of sticking it to Milwaukee after Game 5 win, even with him not being there, and sending the offer of coming to the OVO Fest. So I'm going to give a passive message to close the show, and we're going to wrap up because it looks like everything is still technically learning and adjusting. My message to pass along, and I don't think I've shared this before, so this will be my first time saying this, and it's mainly my main gist of today, is to value friends and family. Family, you only get one family. You don't lose a family and regain a whole new family. And I know that's like, well, I mean, when you get new people that you get to know, they're considered as family. And it's like, yes, but they're not your original family. And I say this because I look at the point or place where my parents are, where my father is. He's not getting any younger. My mother's not getting any younger. I'm obviously not getting any younger. And my siblings are up in age to the point where I need to really do my best in keeping in contact with them as possible. And sometimes I don't do that because a lot of times I'm very disconnected, which I'm working on big time. But I just wanted to share that message in pointing out that if you're in that phase or in that rut where your life isn't, quote unquote, going the way you want it to go, just remember you have family, you have people that you can utilize as a proper avenue, but don't use your resources for a weakness. In other words, just because I have family and I'm looking to get a job at a company doesn't mean, okay, I got a job because I know they're going to help me get a job. It should be, I need to put my effort in of getting the job. And if they're able to help me in a small manner with a reference or with a recommendation, utilize it in that regard, but don't think that because you know someone that knows someone that you're automatically going to get what you deserve. So that's on the family side. With friends, those who are your true friends are going to get that there are going to be days that you're going to be readily available, and there are days you're going to be disconnected. Your true friends are going to let you go through that disconnecting phase, but know that you're eventually going to come back. You have to bounce back. Like sometimes we feel like we're never going to bounce back, but bouncing back is the hard part that we're not ready for, but we know it's there. So value the friends, value family, because you only get one family, and value friends because even with those friends may go away and you may get new friends and have to start all over again. So I hope everyone enjoyed. I know this was a long show. I'm going to go through and do some editing, and I probably am going to have to do something a little different, which I think might be using the recording for the video as the audio. Possibly idea. Save on using other program. Well, I still need the other program for its purpose, but so I don't burn the candle, like burn both ends of the candle, I guess you could say. So thank y'all for tuning in. Links will be in the show notes as always for the microphone, the Blue Yeti. And shout out to Logitech, by the way, because they're the camera that helps you see all my craziness that's going on right now. So until next time, y'all take it easy, be positive, and I'm out. Peace.